Welcome back, everybody. I got a request from a viewer the other day asking how I would go about creating a glass effect in Affinity Photo 2. I thought about it for a while and came up with two examples that I thought I would show all of you. The first is this magnifying glass effect, and the second is this glass text effect. In the first example, I decided to make things more challenging by building the magnifying glass from scratch. So I found a piece of metal pipe and I duplicated it by right-clicking on the layer and selecting Duplicate. If I click off the ant-covered hand for a second, you can see the top pipe. I'll use these in a second. To build my magnifying glass, I'll select the donut shape from the Shapes drop-down on the left toolbar. Then I'll grab the little red dot on the inner circle and drag it to make the shape look like the bezel around the glass. I'll drag one of the pipe images to the top of the layers, and using my Select tool, I'll drag the corner nodes to make it bigger. Then I'll line it up over the donut and make it transparent for a second so that I can see that the pipe covers the shape. Next, I'll just drag and drop the image onto the shape to embed this lovely metal texture to the bezel of my magnifying glass. Now, I'll build the handle by going back to my Shapes drop-down and selecting the rounded rectangle tool. I'll drag it to about the right size. Then, I'll make another rectangle for the little part that connects to the bezel. Okay, now I'll select both of the shapes, right-click on them and scroll down to Geometry and then Add to add them together. I'll rotate the handle a bit to line it up with the image of the pipe. While I'm at it, let me drag the duplicate pipe layer to the top of the layer stack. I'll rotate my shape a bit more and then place it over the shiny area of the pipe. Okay, now I'll just drag the pipe layer onto the shape layer, and there you go, a nice handle. Next, I'll place it by the bezel, rotate it a bit to line it up and drag the bezel layer to the top. Finally, I'll select both layers, right-click on them and select Group to connect them. Alright, I promise, I'll get to the first glass effect here, but that was fun building my magnifying glass. First, I'll rotate the magnifier. Make it a bit bigger by dragging the corner nodes and placing it where I want over the hand full of ants. Alright, now I want to magnify this one little ant here. To do that, I'll go to my toolbar and select the elliptical marquee tool to select a circle around it. To center the ant in the center and make a perfect selection circle, I'll hold Command or Control and Shift while dragging the tool from the center of the ant. Next, I'll rasterize the image so that Affinity turns it into a pixel layer. Then, I'll click Command or Control C to copy and Command or Control V to paste the ant onto its own layer. I can now select it and make it bigger by dragging the corner nodes. Oops, don't hold Shift while making the image bigger or it will make it oblong. Alright, I guess I made my ant a little too big. So, I'll make it smaller and place it so it fits into the bezel nicely. Okay, now I'm going to do a few things to make this look a little more realistic. First, with the ant layer selected, I'll go to the top left corner and open up my Liquify persona and select the pinch tool. I'll drag the speed slider up to make it go faster. Then, I'll click and hold on the center of the lens to make the ant bulge a bit. Then, I'll click Apply. Next, I'll go to the FX button at the bottom of my Layers panel and select 3D and check the box. I'll drag the radius slider up quite a bit to give the edges more realistic highlights and shading. While I'm at it, I'll do the same 3D effect to the handle and bezel. This will give the metal a more rounded look. There, that looks good. Okay, one last thing on this image, and then I'll move to the next glass example. I want to put a little reflection of the sun in the glass. So I'll open up the Stock tab and use this picture I found of the sun and sky. I'll just drag it onto my canvas here. I'll use the corner nodes to resize it. And then I'll select the elliptical marquee tool again. I'll hold the Shift and Command or Control keys and then drag from the sun out to make a perfect circle selection. I want to cut this part out, but since this is an image file, I first need to right-click on the layer and rasterize it before I can do that. Now, I'll click Command or Control X to cut and command, or Control V to paste the sun onto a new layer. Once that's done, I can delete the rest of the sky layer as I don't need it. Then, I'll move it over the magnifying glass lens. I want to remove the blue sky. So, I'll go to the menu and select Layer, then New Live Mask Layer, and then Luminosity Range. That brings up this little graph. If I lower the left side down, you can see the blue start to fade away. I'll grab it from the middle and drag that down and to the right until only the sun remains. That worked perfectly. I'll just move it over a bit so it's not hiding my ant. Okay, project 1 is complete. The next glass effect is pretty easy to do, so it will be much quicker. So stick around. I'm going to start with this wet glass image I got from pixabay.com. I already typed the words glass effect number 2. I'll start by centering the text using the center button in the top toolbar. Then I'll use the corner nodes to make it a bit smaller for now, and I'll move it back to center. Then I'll go to my blend modes at the top of the layers panel and change it from normal to something else that you can see through. I think overlay will do. Alright, now I'll click on the FX button at the bottom of the layers panel and select 3D and check the box. I'll slide the radius slider up to around 30-ish. Then I'll check Bevel Emboss and move its radius slider up to around 38. That looks pretty good already. Now, I'll select the text layer and go to the top menu and click Select, then Selection from Layer. This will put the little marching ants around my text. I want to then select the wet glass layer and click Command or Control C to copy and Command, or Control V to paste. This will copy the wet glass in the shape of my text. Then I can select both of the layers, right-click on them and group them together. Alright, now that they are grouped, I can grab them by the corner nodes and make the image bigger. That makes it stand out a bit more while giving the water drops behind the text a bit of a magnified effect. Alright, that's about it for today. If you learned something and want to see more of this kind of content, please click those like and subscribe buttons. And if you're feeling generous, this channel runs on caffeine. There's a link to buy me a cup of coffee in the descriptions. Not necessary, but certainly appreciated. Have a great day, everyone.